Yo, what up guys? Rago here from MACkite. So today we're going to review the new Airush Lithium kite, and this is a long-time staple on Airush's lineup, but it has been redesigned and it is aimed a bit more towards performance. So it's been a while since I've used the old Lithium, but I do want to address I think a lot of the questions that a lot of riders might have, because I also have the lift and there's a lot of other big air kites to choose from. So I had this kite for a couple months, I did some testing, and I'm gonna let you know what I think, where it stacks up, what it's good at, what it's not so good at, and who should be considering the new Airush Lithium. So with the Airush Lithium, I think this would be a really good kite for, first of all, new riders, because this is the kind of kite that makes very difficult, bad conditions easy and fun, and we'll elaborate on that further. Second, I think it would be a good option for intermediate big air riders who are looking for an advantage with a little extra hang time while learning board offs, working on their late rolls, trying to progress their big air game, whatever it might be, where you just need a little extra loft. And then third, riders who just want to send it, go as high as possible, and stay in the air as long as possible. So if you fit into that category, the Airush Lithium is going to be a really good choice for you. Now, if you're somebody who wants to do advanced kite loops, like any kite, you're going to want to go to the smaller sizes. And what I found with the 10 meter that I had is it reminded me a lot of the slingshot machine, in the sense that some of these high aspect kites, when you loop them, they're a little slower to initiate the loop. So it's a gradual build, whoosh. And again, I think this just comes down to the shape of the kite. And the truth is, for most of the riders I know that are doing loops anyway, they don't like looping anything bigger than a 9 meter. So I didn't have a 9 meter task. I have looped some 10 meters where I feel good about getting a catch, even on a smaller jump. So with this 10, I think if I had sent it high enough, it probably would have caught me. But because I wasn't used to the timing on this kite, and I guess that is something to consider if you're somebody who's new to loops, it's not the fastest to initiate a loop. So there are kites like that will just come right around and catch you. Even my 10 meter razor, I feel pretty good about looping, because that kite will just whip around and come right back up for the catch. So I think a lot of this comes back to who the kite is aimed at, which is, this is kind of an old school kind of kite where riders are doing old school like hand drags, dark slides, anything where you're sending the kite and working it back and forth. And if this sounds familiar, it's because a lot of these things I talked about when I was doing a review on the slingshot machine. So that was another high aspect kite that I thought was really fun. The kind of kite where you would go out in bad conditions. And some of the differences here are, one thing that I really liked about the Lithium was the feedback. I thought this kite had phenomenal bar feedback compared to a lot of kites that I've used recently. And most notable is it's a really fast kite. The nice thing about that was it was really easy to get tons of speed and just send the kite for a jump. And then something about that bar feedback, I always knew where the kite was. Even when I got spun around kind of backwards on like back rolls, you could just feel where it was. It just gave you so much feedback, but it wasn't like heavy bar pressure where you're you know, busting up your joints or anything like that. It's always so subjective with bar pressure. If you fly north kites, you probably think the Airush was heavy bar pressure. If you flew Cabrina kites, you probably think that Airush was moderate to light bar pressure. So it just depends on what you fly. So with my experience on this kite, I really did actually enjoy the 10, and I feel like if I had it for a few more sessions, I probably would be hucking kite loops on this one, because, I mean, come on, 10 meter. I feel like you can throw a kite loop on any 10 meter kite. But the timing, I had to pull the trigger a little bit earlier than I was anticipating compared to some of the other kites that I've been flying, and I think I tend to pull the trigger later anyway, so I should just get in the habit of pulling a little bit earlier. So as far as the wind range on this kite, I felt that the Lithium, it handled being overpowered pretty well actually. I never felt overpowered on it. When I took it out, it was a super gusty day, so it must have been like 16 knots to like 25 knots, something like that. And you know, at 25, I wouldn't say 25 was overpowered on a 10 meter by any means, but it felt really good. And very much under control, and man, could you get some good air, and you just stayed up there forever on this kite. Now, on the bottom end, when it was getting down to like 16 knots, something in that area, I thought that the kite felt a little spongy, and it still performed surprisingly well on the bottom end. And I would say if the 10 meter, like a few kites I've reviewed recently, it felt like a 10 meter is supposed to feel. I wasn't disappointed by the low end, but I wouldn't say that it was special by any means either. It's not like the kind of kite where you can go out and make the bold claim that it has so much bottom end. It was pretty average at best. So coming back around to the performance-minded, I do feel that this is very much a performance-minded kite for that rider. Probably we could call it, this is an old term from kiteboarding, but I think I remember hearing somebody say like a 90%er kite. And I think this very much applies to the Lithium now. If you fall into the kind of rider who just wants to go out and send huge jumps, stay in the air forever, work on your tricks, have a little extra advantage, and also have a kite that's going to give you good solid feedback where you're not going to lose orientation while you're spending so much time in the air. I guess this is kind of funny, but this is really notable for me. But when I sent a jump, sometimes, like with some kites, I don't feel like where the kite is too much above me, and with this kite it was like, oh yep, it's on the left, bring it over to the right, bringing it back across, and it was almost like the kite was just begging me to work it, to just get a little bit of extra loft. And that really stood out because I haven't been on too many lofty kites recently up until this last month as I've been getting demos in, and this was just such a lofty kite that it made total sense why they designed it the way they designed it. Now, do I still think that this is a good kite for beginners? And if you are a kite looper, are there other better options? Yeah, I think if you're looking for the highest performance on loops, you're gonna have to look to a kite where you're gonna make some sacrifices for that loop performance, give up some of that, making bad conditions fun conditions, and that's something you're gonna have to consider for yourself. But if you are somebody who lives somewhere with gustier winds, or like I said, you're that intermediate rider and you're wanting a kite that will give you an edge. On that note, this is kind of funny because I actually did prep a video that I haven't released yet about will new gear make you better? And the whole point of that video is actually going to be about time on the water is what makes you better. But in instances like this, using the right gear for what you're trying to do, there is a place for that. And when it comes to a kite like this, I do think there is an advantage having something that's easy to use with extra hang time. And those two factors alone will go a long way in somebody's progress. So that's probably the biggest consideration. This is a kite that is progression minded. Unless you're at the top of your game and you're hucking mega loops, you're probably gonna wanna look elsewhere. But if you're in that 90%, it's a killer kite to help you progress into big air category. I wouldn't recommend it for anybody doing unhook freestyle, although you could. I have no idea how this one stands up in the waves. I could probably guess, but I'm not going to because I haven't tested that. But all in all, really good kite for the aspiring big air enthusiast. So if you got any questions on this one, let me know. Hit me in the comments. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. I'll catch you later.